Oh boy, where to start with this one? I remember when I saw Shazam for the first time. I had really low expectations because I wasn't super into the trailer that was shown, and I don't know much about the character. But after watching it, I was really surprised by how actually decent it was. This was the complete opposite experience. I was more familiar with the character and had hoped to see a lot more done with him, and boy, did that not happen. Shazam! Fury of the Gods is extremely disappointing and so fucking lame. It actually might be one of the most uncreative superhero movies I've seen in a really long time. It doesn't do anything original, down to the point where I would jokingly say things that were probably gonna happen next, and it would happen. It's that fucking predictable. For a movie about a superhero that received their powers through magical means, Shazam barely used his powers in this movie. He shoots some lightning bolts here and there, but that's pretty much the extent of it. There are other characters that use magic in this movie, so it's not like there's a lack of it, but I would like to see more of it. Magic can be used in so many creative ways, but Fury of the Gods chooses to use it in the most basic forms. Let me talk about some of the characters. If you've seen the first Shazam movie, then you know that there is a lot more than just one Shazam now. You could say that it's a whole family of superheroes. They work a lot together, saving the day and figuring out how to stop the villains. And after watching them spend a lot of time together in this movie, I can confidently say that a lot of them really don't have any chemistry together. And I don't mean it from like a story perspective. Like, there's a big plot point in this movie that points out how they clash with each other. What I mean is how they just don't feel like an actual family. Some of them are fine, but when the majority were together, I just wasn't buying it. And I don't think it's any of the actors' fault. I think the reason I don't feel their chemistry is because we don't see them doing a lot of family shit that often. They're just doing superhero shit for the most part. And I shit you not, for most of this movie, we really don't see the kid versions of these characters, which should be a fucking crime. The only one we do see the most in both forms is Mary, and that's because she's the only one that looks the same in both forms for some fucking reason. I cannot express how much that fucking bothers me. Like, the movie points out their ages quite a bit. We know that Billy is not that much younger than Mary, so why does she get to keep her form and Billy has to turn into this old ass looking Zachary Levi going through a fucking midlife crisis? This movie is full of these types of inconsistencies. There is a lot of shit that, if you've seen the last movie, really doesn't make any sense in this movie, and that's all the fault of the poor writing in this movie. This movie just kind of starts making shit up for the sake of the plot. Like, some of the characters have shit they want to do, and there's only one way to do it, but oh wait, by the power of the shit writing in this movie, there's a different way of going about it, and just dumb shit like that. I don't want to get too into it without spoiling it, but just know that this is one of those movies where if you really start paying attention to how like the magic system work or how the plot's going, it really starts falling apart and you start seeing all those plot holes. I also did not like the villains of this movie. They're pretty fucking lame. They're one of those villains that just kind of show up out of nowhere and start spewing what made them evil and then just fucking contradict themselves throughout the entire movie. Their acting isn't even that bad, it's just how they're written. Honestly, the acting isn't bad at all in this movie. At times, it feels like some of them are acting to save their fucking lives with the shit they had to work with. The only character I really wasn't a fan of was Mary, and I feel like that's going to be a hot fucking take, but hear me out. I don't know if it's just me, but I remember her in a lot of scenes where she's just kinda there and not really speaking. Like, not even in the background of the shot, but like fucking front center stage. It feels really fucking awkward, and when she did speak, it was just like a handful of lines. I don't know. I might just be talking out of my ass, but like I swear to God, that's just how I remember her. Another character that really stood out to me was Freddy fucking Fazbear or some shit like that. I don't remember his name. Freddy was probably the best written character in this movie. He's not a great written character, let me be fucking clear, but he does stand out way more than everybody else, and that's because at points it does feel like this was supposed to be his movie, and I really wish they would have leaned in more towards that. They have this interesting beginning in this movie that sort of explains his role in the team, and I wanted to see where that would take us, but after a certain point, that personal storyline kind of takes a backseat to the overarching story, and that sucks. I feel like if they would have worked more with that specific story, it would have been a more interesting movie. Like, I like family dynamics in movies. It makes the plot far more interesting, and this is a movie that wants to trick you into thinking that it has a good one. It kind of presents itself as a movie where there seems to be a lot of family clashing, but there really isn't. It's not the worst movie in the world though. Like, I know I just talked about it like it is the fucking worst movie ever made, but it's really not. It's just a step backwards. This feels like a DC movie falling into that Marvel trap where they just try to go really hard on that kid-friendly aspect of it, and it shows. It doesn't feel like a DC movie. It feels more like a Marvel movie, and I don't mean that in a good way. I mean like the recent Marvel movies. I normally don't score movies, but I feel like I should change that and actually start scoring movies now to kind of give you an idea of how I actually feel about movies, because sometimes I know I go on these little rants where I just talk non-stop shit and it just kind of gives the impression that I hate these movies. But this one, like, it's not the best movie in the world, but like it's not as bad as like I meant it out to be. So I'm giving Shazam Fury of the Gods a fat 5.5 out of 10. I do like it better than Ant-Man ever so slightly. The thing that kind of improves it and makes it a step above that is I feel like it has a little bit better visual effects, but that's just because Marvel has been stretched so fucking thin with that shit, and DC can take a little bit more time trying to like get that shit together. So that's kind of the end of that.